as Lou did mention yesterday about the old Zen stories and so on, of course, they can be inspiring, encouraging, but as I believe you said, but they're not mine, they're not my experience. They're someone else's experience. And this is a very important thing to keep in mind. These stories, these koans from the sutras, all kinds of things, they can be helpful. They can be inspiring. They can encourage us. But they can also become a kind of a stumbling block. Now I have to be like Vimalakirti or Gautama Buddha or something like that. And this can be a serious stumbling block rather than something that helps us on the way. When we take up these kinds of words, the Zen language, so to speak, we have to take it seriously, or it's very easy to misunderstand. Very easy to misunderstand, to take it into our own distorted understanding or misunderstanding, and then try to convince ourselves of something. A very simple example in the early Zen tradition, one of the most important Zen masters, Matsu or Baso, four Chinese characters. Way not need cultivation. The way does not need cultivation, to cultivate like a farm, to go out and to prepare the soil for something to grow. So a very famous statement of Baso or Matsu. The way does not need cultivation. If we stop there, well, great, done deal. Well, I don't have to do anything, right? And then, of course, we continue in our delusion. But he doesn't stop there. He says, again, 4 more characters, 4 words. Way not need cultivation, literally. The way does not need cultivation. Just don't defile. Defile means to stain or make dirty. It's actually 2 Chinese characters, one meaning to stain, like a stain, something to, you have a clean shirt and you spill some food, now there's a stain there. Or to make impure, to dirty, make dirty or impure. So again, way not need cultivation. So far, so good. But then he says, just don't defile, make dirty or stain. Then he himself asks the audience, what is defilement? What is it to make dirty or to stain? He's already said it doesn't need to be cultivated. What then is it to defile? Again, he asks the audience, what is defilement? And he himself answers, when with the mind of birth and death, we seek in a contrived way. To contrive means something artificial, manipulate, self-conscious manipulation, to contrive. When with the mind of birth and death, we seek in a contrived way, a self-conscious way, everything is defilement. Again, he himself answers, what is this defilement? When, with the mind of birth and death, we seek in a contrived way, everything is defilement. He continues, to directly and immediately enter the way. Now he's not talking about words and concepts. He's talking about entering the way. Huh? To directly and immediately enter the way, ordinary mind is the way. This became such a famous statement that if you come to Kyoto, you may go to a sushi shop and you may see a calligraphy. Everyday mind is the way. It's that famous. Huh? So again, what is he saying? If, as Dude reminds us, we take it from our own experience. Huh? The way does not need to be cultivated, contrived. Just don't defile it. What is this defilement? When with the mind of birth and death, good and evil, better and worse, me and you, illusion and enlightenment. Huh? When with the discursive mind, we seek in a contrived way. Huh? We try to do something, to get somewhere, for example. Everything is defilement. Whatever we do is defiled. To directly and immediately enter the way, ordinary mind is the way. Now you see how easily that can be misunderstood, right? Oh, ordinary mind is the way. Okay, so let's go bowling and have a beer. But that ordinary mind means truly ordinary. I would say extraordinarily ordinary. Not one defilement, not one thought of gaining or losing. You see, what he's really saying is it's completely natural in the profoundest sense of the term. It doesn't need to be manipulated. But what he's really showing is how thoroughgoing the practice must be. You see? There can't be one defilement, one thought of attainment, for example. If it is, well, then it's defiled. That's truly ordinary. It's what we do every day before we think about it or put it into a box and decide, oh, this is a worldly thought. No, this is an enlightened thought. Huh? Before all of that. Huh? And you see how easy it is to think either, oh, okay, well, that's what I'm doing anyway, so forget it. Why do we have to practice? Or defilement. Oh, no, so it's impossible. These are both also equally defilements. Have you ever been in a real emergency situation? Have you ever been where life and death is staring you in the face? Most of you, I suppose, were adults, at least some point in your life, perhaps. Driving down the road, you turn the corner, and all of a sudden there's a serious accident and somebody's lying there on the street. You have to immediately act. Huh? It's true, a small percentage of people will go into shock and they won't be able to function. But most of us will be able to function from a place completely free of defilement, of discursive thought. You know what I mean? You're driving down the road thinking 100 different thoughts, listening to, who was it, Paul McCartney or somebody on the radio there, humming away. Boom, and there's an accident. Do you have to get rid of your thoughts? No, they're gone. They are gone without a thought. How did you do that? You see, the mind has the natural capacity to do that. Unfortunately, we don't know that until we run into an emergency. Don't wait for that, I would suggest. You see, everyone has the natural ability to do that. The mind is wiped clean in an instant, confronted with an emergency. How did you do that? Well, you didn't do it, we might say. That's right, but it was done. And you can act, right, completely free from discursive thought, to do what needs to be done. Get a flare from the back of the car, move the person, to do what needs to be done. Does anyone not know what I'm talking about? So don't give me this bullshit about how complicated or how hard it is. That's bullshit. You have the natural capacity to do it. But you are so involved in defilement that it seems like, oh, I got to go through all this stuff. No, you don't. See the emergency that's right here. The one great matter of life and death is staring you in the face. This is also what Rude was talking about. I trust you see. And also, this afternoon, the brief Dharma talk, Ruth will speak from her own experience and talk about the sadness, things like this, that she experienced and the end of that sadness. So we look forward to that, Ruth, this afternoon. It's all connected. But again, to return to Dude's point, we don't need to go to these stories. Okay, now remember that one, okay? Remember the Baso, the Matsu quote, okay? We don't need to go to those stories. Huh? Open up. I urge you, I beg you, open up to what is in the depths of your own heart. Under your feet, in the depths of your own heart. Open up to that, and it will show you the way you must go. If you don't open up to that, well, then it becomes very complicated, doesn't it? Oh, Bankei said that, but then Hakuin said this, but then Rinzai said that, but then, I'm really kind of a Christian anyway, so mental masturbation. See what your mind is doing. Not what you want it to do or you think it's supposed to do. What is your mind doing? And you will see the need for discipline, for practice, for a retreat, for exactly what we are doing now. Not because it's so difficult, but because our mind is so full of, if I use the Buddhist term, defilement. And somebody else didn't put it there. This very big sounding one great matter, the one great matter of birth and death, or life and death, it's the same word. It can sound so awesome and so perhaps even abstract if you don't pull it out of yourself. If you try to put it in, yeah, but when you pull it out of yourself, it's the most natural thing in the world. It's inevitable. It's inescapable. You came into birth with it, and as long as you're alive, it's there. It's there. It's you. Many people, for example, in China, came to it through the death of a loved one. Quite natural. Perhaps grandma or your beloved aunt or your mother passes away. Wait a minute. Where is she? I love her. I miss her. What happened to her? Where did she go? And as many of the monks and nuns and lay people throughout the Zen records will say, this became a kind of a great doubt. First it was mom or auntie or grandma, but then it becomes, wait a minute, where did she go? And where will I go? It's not just about her, it's about everybody, isn't it? Matter of fact, where do I really come from? Where ultimately will I go? The problem with this kind of expression, these kinds of words, is it can sound like, oh, so maybe we should study Tibetan Buddhism and we can learn about past lives, who I was before this life, or a future life. If I do the right stuff, maybe I'll have. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. It's talking about here, this, now. Until it becomes the fact that I don't know who, what this is. It's not about a past life or a future life. Right here and right now, I don't fully know in my bones, not just in my head, in my bones, what is this? Who is this? And that comes naturally to include everything. It's nothing abstract or philosophical at all. It has philosophical implications, if you will, theological, teleological, what life is about. But the point is, it's the most existential, immediate, and direct experience there is. We're not talking about something abstract. You need to learn some Buddhist philosophy and then we can consider this. No, look at your life. Look into the depths of your own heart. Where did you come from? Where are you going? For that matter, where are you right now? And I don't mean style on the German border either. Bo Shan, the Chinese Zen master of the Sung dynasty, actually a Soto master, not a Rinzai master, speaks about the importance of rousing this great doubt. But in the end, he says, eventually, you will break through this doubt block when it's fully realized. It's like a block. Everything is there and it stops. Eventually, you will break through this doubt block and realize what a worthless notion life and death is. Oh, we're making such a big deal about it. Now he's saying it's worthless. Exactly. Once you've gone through it, it's a worthless notion. He says, finally, you will realize what a worthless notion life and death, the one great matter is. And then he goes, ha! Which is a certain character, the same basic character that Rinzai speaks of. Ha! And then he says, great doubt, great enlightenment. Small doubt, small enlightenment. No doubt, no enlightenment. It's kind of a set phrase. But do you see what he's doing? Out of his compassion, he's giving it to you. An illustration, an example, of course. A loved one passes away. Well, we can relate to that, huh? And then it comes to trigger, to spark something in us, huh? And it comes to include everything. But this is just one example. There are endless. If we look into the depths of our own heart, our own being, any one of you who has lived fully has touched the great doubt. If you have lived fully, you have loved and you have lost, huh? You know something of the great doubt. Don't fool yourself. But again, returning to dude, he says, yes, but it's not my experience. Quite true, quite true. You have to find it here, huh? Przemek mentioned Bankei, Hakuin and Bankei. Bankei has a wonderful statement that underlies this whole thing. Someone asks him about what is this great doubt and great enlightenment? Because you, Bankei, you don't use it in your teaching. Why not? And then Bankei tries to explain that, he uses it from first to last, but he doesn't turn it into someone else's experience. The real point that he says is the following, People nowadays say they need to have doubt because people in the past did. People nowadays, this is about 300 years ago, or maybe today. People nowadays say they need to have doubt because people in the past did. So you cultivate the doubt. You cultivate a doubt. I'm going to think up a real big one today. So you cultivate the doubt. But that's merely an imitation of a doubt, not real doubt. So the day never comes when you arrive at a real resolution. That's why you don't arrive at a real resolution, because you're trying to borrow somebody else's. Open up to yours, once again. So the day never comes when you arrive at a real resolution. Bankei hammers it home. He says, it's like pretending you lost something you didn't really lose and then running off and looking for it. Consider well. It's not someone else's experience. It's not someone else's doubt. Open up to yours. That will do just fine. That will do just fine. Please feel free to stand up and stretch for a moment. Does anyone have a question or concern from out of the practice? Please feel free. Ruth.
Bankei had this near-death experience when he had this sputum plug.
Yes.
Which he coughed up.
Yes.
And so he's kind of knew what death is. And he was able to work with the people and take fear away. He was quite ordinary, just nothing special.
Yes.
Like the one assistant of that lady who asked him to come and see her because she was dying. And he gives her, tells her she should sew a kesa. And it's not necessary for him to see her because she has her ordinary mind. There's nothing special about it, and she should do zazen before she dies. So that's quite easy. But it's of course more complicated. Then
again, doing zazen when you're about to die is something to consider as we're all sitting here comfortably on our cushions. When are you going to die? We're all sitting about to die, aren't we? But we pretend we're not. But that's a good way to bring the zazen down to earth, isn't it? Go ahead, please. Continue. You were going to say something else? No? Thank you. Yeah, Bankei is an extraordinary figure, In some ways, perhaps the greatest Japanese Zen master.
This is something more I want to tell. He, of course, he had tuberculosis, and it's very sad. He had a big purification, but he must have spread the disease as well unknowingly, because there was no cure for this disease, but I don't think they knew how contagious it was.
Mm-hmm. Even if he was healed, he would still carry it, he could still transmit it?
No, at that time there was no treatment for it.
So even if he had been healed, he recovered, he would still be able to give it to other people?
Well, it doesn't say exactly. The first part when he had this experience, it was open tuberculosis, so
Yes.
he was a spreader. But maybe later it encapsulated.
And then he wouldn't.
He was not contagious.
Right, I see. Yeah, yeah. Who knows? Yeah. This was 300 years.
Well, he had ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as already mentioned, he almost killed himself as Shakyamuni Gautama Buddha, according to the records. Got to the point where his belly button touched his backbone, and he realized he was dying. He wasn't getting enlightened. Bankei basically did the same thing, sitting on rock, without even a cushion. Really did all kinds of injury to his body, trying to awaken. And you can see in his teaching after that, you don't have to do what I do. If I can put it in my own, you have to give all of yourself. You have to give all of yourself. Without that, you can't begin. But you don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to do ascetic practices, torturing yourself. You don't have to do that. Live in a way that you can have a healthy, long life and really see it through. That's how you give all of yourself. Not by, torturing yourself. So Bankei is a very good example, and maybe a corrective, as Prezemek mentioned, some of the excesses of the Rinzai Zen tradition in Japan, where it's this kind of pushing, and it can work, but the people I've seen who gain a realization that way, it's certainly not natural. It's certainly not integrated. It's not grounded or well-rounded. It's this kind of like that. And often they're emotionally very, very unstable as a result. And so you get this kind of real one-sided harshness, perhaps. But we don't have to go there. We don't have to go there. And Bankei, one of the reasons I mentioned him, he's a very good corrective to the dangerous excesses, trying to force our way into some kind of enlightenment. It doesn't work. Even if you do gain something, it's not going to be integrated. So don't greedily seek some kind of an experience. This is a clear symptom of the disease. Rather, simply give yourself to the moment-to-moment practice in a healthy way. This retreat may seem rather excessive to some of you, but it is balanced. We have sitting, we have breaks, we have nutritious meals, we walk regularly. The body is not made to just sit here hour after hour after hour. Well, we have regular walking meditation, kinhin, that's right. It is done in a way that is healthy. It can cause some pain, but as I said, if you stand for 8 hours, it'll hurt. So the retreat is done in a way, almost everything that we're doing in this retreat is to help provide the best conditions for us to do what we're doing, which is to give all of ourselves in a natural way. Thank you for bringing that up, Ruth. We have maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. Anything else? Please feel free.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes? Yeah.
I was wondering, is in the moment that you really see through who you are? Is that not also the moment that a lot of shame comes up of what you did before that when you were sort of not clear? And that you maybe also, it's also the moment that you feel, oh my goodness, I've been dreaming all my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends on the person. You know, if you, again, the value of looking at these Zen records is you can see how it came about in different people. If you really study it, you can see how they grew up, what they struggled with, and then when they had an awakening. One person has an awakening and he says, I couldn't stop laughing for 3 days. Yeah. Well, if you look into this guy's life and learn a little of his personality, yeah, I wouldn't have stopped laughing either. But for him, that's what it came, because of what he had been struggling with. And then when it became clear, he couldn't stop laughing for 3 days. But another person, yes, may realize there's a wonderful saying which is not common in Zen, which is, everyday Japanese now, Haji Yoshiru, which means, how would you translate it, Fusako? Haji Yoshiru, to know your shame? Yeah. Haji is shame or embarrassment. Shiru means to know.
Not only to know, but it's just realizing.
Yeah, to reflect on it. Yeah, as you were saying, to see maybe what you have done all of your life, huh? And to have a deep feeling of shame. Zen doesn't usually go there. You won't see the word shame in a lot of the Zen records, but there was one outstanding Zen master, Goso Hoen, and he had a relatively easy way. He was very brilliant. He made his way, became a kind of a Zen master. But then eventually he met a real Zen teacher who showed him he didn't know shit from Shinola, as we would say. Huh? And so in a way he started over again and he practiced. And his statement is 20, 30 years, meaning a couple of decades, 20, 30 years attaining the way. Finally, I have reached, finally now, only now I know my own shame. I took this as my koan when I went through the koan curriculum and completed it. I took this as, there's what's called a final koan, which you're given. But this was my final koan to myself, huh? To know my own shame. Huh? It's not a common statement in Zen. But the next generation after in that same lineage, someone wrote, to just those two characters, no shame, to know shame, what marvelous words these are. Huh? Yeah, they're words, but they have a place. Huh? But you see, it depends on the person. We can't say how it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? Rinzai, when he finally realized it, he said, is that all there is to my teacher's Buddha Dharma? Because it was just so clear to him once it was realized. Before that, he was getting hit and struck. Before he even opened his mouth, he would get hit. And he said, I don't know where my fault lies. And so he goes to someone else. Anyway, eventually he realizes it. And the way he expressed it, at least in the Zen records, was, is that all there is to my teacher's Buddha Dharma? Jeez. It's as clear as the nose on my face. But another person can't stop laughing for 3 days. Another person knows his own shame. This is not a different sentiment, but it comes out very differently in the personality, if you will. It's a good question because we think, oh, well, wait a minute, the personality, that all disappears, right? And you become a Buddha. You become truly who you are. And that may mean realizing the depth of your own shame.
That's maybe not always something to be looking forward.
Oh no, you don't understand what it is. Then you don't understand that. No. You need to know your own shame. There's no greater joy than that. Being without self, you cannot help but know your own shame. You want to know that. Consider well. It's not the ego self saying, oh no, I did something wrong. No. That shame shows you the way, Niels. When you truly see it. Huh? Consider well.